So I'm working on my Tree of Life painting. This is kind of wrapping it up, but who knows? I've been kind of locked into my studio for 3 or 4 days now. But I've been working on this in one way or another for about 12 years. Kind of had this vision one day after I had some friends over who were artists and had, spiritual inclinations, and we were doing some different chanting exercises and talking about dreams and stuff like this. And one of the moments I was just in my studio alone during that weekend that we were spending together, I just suddenly the entire room just transformed, and I was in this space, kind of like going to another planet for a second, where I'm standing at the base of this Tree of Life. And there's all this stuff going on. There's all these plants. And all the leaves are really alive, like they're really animated, and each one moving, not with the wind, but kind of waving. It's on their own. It's really crazy. So, and then noticeably there was around the base of this tree was this giant two-headed snake. And I wasn't really sure what that was. It was the first time I'd seen it. And I remember getting the feeling on one side of one head of the snake had this kind of dog-like feeling, and the other one more of like a goldfish. It was a feeling. It didn't really look like it, but it did have little ear-like things a little bit, not much, kind of like little dragon fins around its ears. So it wasn't like a normal snake. So I'd looked it up, and I thought at first, of course there's the snake in the Garden of Eden that we know about, and that makes sense, it's associated with a tree, but not necessarily just a single snake, and I end up referencing it, of course, because everything that comes to mind about this piece is part of my learning process about it, and it kind of gets recorded in the piece too. So I'm trying to discover what this snake is. And I think about the caduceus, which is the symbol that we use for pharmacists and stuff in this country. And I always thought that was the symbol for healing from Roman Greek times, but actually it's not. It's a symbol of Hermes and Mercury, the messenger gods, revealing secrets, stuff like this. And the staff of Asclepius is actually the healing staff, and that just had a single snake. So it's kind of strange, I think we, just as a culture, we've maybe adopted it, or it's changed. But what's kind of funny is that the caduceus is actually known as the symbol of commerce rather than healing, which is kind of funny when you think about the state of our healthcare system and big pharma in our country right now. So, on that level, it's pretty funny. So I looked into it. It wasn't really exactly what the snake looked like, or I thought the snake looked like. So looked deeper into it. The caduceus had a very similar one in Sumerian culture called the Ningishita. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And this was actually the god of vegetation, and it was the god of the underworld, but also translates into the Lord of the Good Tree. So I thought that was interesting. that definitely makes sense that I would envision this snake around this tree. And the snake, like in the tree, kind of kept appearing in dreams too, so I knew that this was something I was going to have to paint. And I'd had a number of these before. I get these, like, almost call them penitent pieces, like they're like missions from God. I get the vision, and at all costs I have to figure it out. And a lot when I first started out, I really didn't know much about making a large painting, but I just did. A lot of my early works are very large, and I did them as prints, even, just very multiple thing, expressions of the same image, but they would be very time consuming and very require a lot of introspection to kind of figure out what the symbols meant to me. So, and like this has been a lot of work. As I say, I've been working on this for about 12 years, but with this one, in figuring it out, when I approached this one, I said, all right, what have I learned? I'm not just going to go for it. I'm going to I need to make it economically viable to some degree, because I still have, I made this one big one on paper called Neophytes, and I made 7 of them. I don't think I sold any of them. I gave a few away, destroyed a few. I still got a couple rolled up, and it's been, more of a pain in the ass to have and to hold on to. And I really thought it was the thing that was gonna get me famous enough to continue making this kind of work, But, oh well. But what I did with this one has been actually very commercially successful, because I had all these panels laying around, and I decided, I wanted to make it really big. Originally, I was going to make it like 16 feet or something. I was like, you know what? There's just no way I can do that, especially in this technique where I'm carving through these layers of plaster. And so I made like 21 separate panels, like some down to 6 inches by 6 inches, and sold them separately. So the name of the piece is actually Life Tria, each sold separately, which again, kind of funny. It's like a take on the commercialization of life, and the selling of things that are otherwise sacred. And health and healing could be one of those. So anyway, back to the snake. I did a little more research and found there was this 2-headed snake figure in Aztec culture, and they don't really know. They attribute it to Quetzalcoatl, but I wasn't sure. They don't really know for sure, but it can make sense. But it was a little sculpture they have in the British Museum made out of turquoise. And that seemed to look a lot like the snake I was talking about. So I actually made this a little more Quetzalcoatl looking, because it had, I wanted to do the one like a dog, and in particular the dog that's sitting at the base at the feet of the angel in Albrecht Dürer's Melancholia. And that angel, and just the experience of Melancholia, I think is like what I made the base of the tree of life out of, whereas the leaves is celebratory, and the expression of happiness, the trunk of the tree is expressing the melancholy, and the roots of the tree, you see this like dark blood red stuff, are dealing with the real harshness of reality things. They're just like the eating, the mining of nutrients, the very base things, and it isn't concerned with the feeling of of the weight of the world, of having to hold up the tree and all of this stuff. And the leaves are just loving it. They're just basking in the light, So that's the tree. And then there's the snake. So there's also, in my I have a personal spiritual teaching. Well, it's not that personal, but it's mine. It's the one I have followed for like about 20 years, which is at Ekankar. And they have a lot of techniques about dreams and stuff like this. But there's a kind of a deity involved that I learned about through them, which is called the Kal Naranjan, which is this basically as the spiritual energy enters these lower worlds of existence, they get split into two major currents, meaning duality, positive and negative currents. So you get all of everything in this world having a dualistic nature. So I thought, well, that makes sense for the snake. So it's kind of representative of that, because the dog-sided one will be concerned with things like things of this world, self-mastery, discipline, control, sorrow, regret, time, any number of things that have to do with, our worldly nature. And the other head of the snake will be celebrating with the leaves, basking in the light and wanting to kind of be part of the Mahanta consciousness, which is also in Ekankar. They regarded a word for like the consciousness, the highest consciousness that one can obtain. So, and that's what I think this really means. But it's not to say that this particular name for this deity is unique or anything. It really can be all of these other deities that we've encountered throughout time, because I think it's really an elemental force that we just encounter in our lives. So, but because this piece has been sitting here for a year, I think this particular deity, if I want to call him that, doesn't want to be manifested in one of my paintings too much. Not to say it's going to do it harm. It's basically when I represent something and figure it out on a canvas, it's kind of it changes my relationship with that thing. So in getting the snake down here, my representation or my relationship with this force is going to be changed. And I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but I think my life's going to be a lot different after I finish this piece. And that's going to be, well, the owner of this particular piece, it's about 4x5, has come to pick it up. And I got to get it done. So it's going to be really quick. And I'd say, a lot of the inner stuff that comes along with it's probably already happened anyway, but it'd be nice just to get this out of my studio and look at it. But I've been selling this piece by piece. If you don't know about it, I've been selling it as I finish the panels, just so I can survive, So I will not have seen this whole thing put together. I'm going to put it together in Photoshop so we can see what the whole thing looks like, but hopefully we can find a place. I'd love to get a nice gallery or museum or any kind of really nice place where we can put it up and get all the people who bought pieces and have supported me over the years to come. We'll have a nice party and put it back together again, and just see it for the first time. I just think it's going to be a really beautiful experience. So we'll see. And we will see. That's the whole idea. All right. Well, I think I need to go do some yoga. I'm seizing up here. So I'm going to stop the video, but thanks for watching. And this is the Tree of Life. Before I turn off the video, I'll give you just a little little shot of this particular piece. And this is the head. I'm going to give him these little, I think they're going to look like the tail feathers of a chicken, kind of, for these ears. So, and this is the dog-like thing, and I got to figure it's going to be an apple or a ball or some kind of orb that he's looking at. I'm hesitating on the apple because I don't want to go too Christian mythology on this, but we'll see. All right, talk to you later.